Welcome to The Great Synthesis, a curated exploration of the origins, influences, and the structural architecture of the Indian Constitution. For years, scholars have debated the true nature of our supreme law. Was it merely a copy or a deliberate engineering feat? Today, we peel back the layers to see how the framers of the Indian Constitution analyzed 60 global constitutions. Their goal, to engineer a uniquely resilient democratic framework that could withstand the pressures of a newly independent nation. The debate begins with a provocative critique. The drafting committee merely patched together a document from 60 different countries. It is a bag of borrowing, lacking originality. This brings us to the core question of our study. Did India blindly copy its governance? Or did its framers masterfully synthesize global democratic heritage to fit the unique reality of India? We will examine the evidence to see if this document is a random collection of parts or a calculated masterpiece of design. Before turning to international models, the framers anchored the Constitution in a pre-existing reality, the Government of India Act 1935. While international influences are highly visible, the vast structural skeleton of Indian governance was already heavily localized through this act. Consider the foundational pillars it provided. The federal structure defined the autonomy and structural relationship between the center and the states. The office of the governor established the executive link between the union and the states. The judicial system provided the skeletal framework of the courts. The administrative machinery incorporated the public service commissions, such as the UPSC, and the office of the CAG. Finally, the Act provided the structural mechanics for crisis management through emergency provisions. With the foundation set, the framers looked to the British Constitution to engineer the core machinery of our governance. This Westminster pillar brought several critical elements to the Indian framework. The parliamentary system was adopted, featuring bicameralism and cabinet governance. It established the collective responsibility of the Council of Ministers to the lower house. The rule of law was embedded as the foundational principle of equality before the law. Single citizenship was introduced as a vital mechanism to unify our diverse population. Finally, the framework incorporated specific legislative mechanics, including prerogative writs, parliamentary privileges, and the principle of procedure established by law. Where Britain provided the parliamentary machinery, the United States Constitution provided the crucial blueprint for individual rights and judicial supremacy. This American pillar introduced several essential safeguards into our legal system. Fundamental rights were adopted as a constitutional guarantee of civil liberties and the equal protection of law. Judicial independence was established, creating the framework for an independent judiciary, judicial review, and public interest litigation. Executive accountability was strengthened through the process for the impeachment of the president and the removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges. Lastly, we adopted the powerful opening ethos of the preamble, "We the people." To calibrate the balance of power, the framers turned to the Commonwealth, drawing inspiration from Canada and Australia. From Canada, we adopted a strong center model of federalism. This structure ensures that all residuary powers vest in the center. It provides for the center's role in appointing state governors. It includes the advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to resolve complex legal questions. From Australia, we integrated mechanisms for cooperative concurrency. We adopted the concurrent list, which allows the centre and states to share legislative power. We established a formal framework for joint sittings of both houses of parliament to resolve deadlocks. We incorporated the framework for ensuring the freedom of trade and commerce across the nation. Looking toward continental Europe, the framers integrated ideals of morality, republic governance, and emergency management. From Ireland, we defined our moral compass. We adopted the directive principles of state policy, which serve as essential guidelines for achieving socio-economic justice. We also drew from Ireland to determine the method for the presidential election and the nomination process for members of the Rajya Sabha. From France, we embraced the spirit of the Republic. This influence led to the formal rejection of monarchy. It allowed us to embed the core ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity directly into our preamble. From Germany, specifically the Weimar Constitution, we developed a crisis protocol. This provided the pragmatic framework allowing for the temporary suspension of fundamental rights during a national emergency. To complete the framework, the framers integrated innovative concepts from the USSR, South Africa, and Japan. From the USSR, we adopted essential national and economic principles. We incorporated fundamental duties to balance the rights of the citizens. The preamble was shaped by the commitment to justice, encompassing social, economic, and political dimensions. We also adopted the concept of economic planning to drive national development. From South Africa, we refined our constitutional agility. We adopted a robust procedure for constitutional amendments to allow the document to evolve. We also utilized their model for the election process of members to the Rajya Sabha. From Japan, we adopted a specific legal standard. We integrated the rigid principle of procedure established by law. This framework serves to shape how personal liberty is evaluated by the courts. The framers explicitly rejected the pursuit of blind originality, prioritizing pragmatism above all else. They chose to adopt only those proven provisions that matched the complex, unfolding realities of Indian society. As Dr. Ambedkar stated in his defense, when we were making the constitution, hundreds of years before that, many countries had made constitutions and had gained the experience to implement them, so we had the option to take advantage of their experiences. He concluded with a powerful realization: there was nothing new to do at that time. The framers did not just copy, they fundamentally adapted external models to fit the Indian context. Consider these two critical systemic transformations. From British monarchy to Indian republic, the British system is built on a hereditary head of state and parliamentary supremacy, where parliament can alter any law. In contrast, India established a republic with an elected president. We shifted toward constitutional supremacy, where parliament is bound by the written constitution and subject to judicial review. From American federalism to integrated judiciary, the American model utilizes a dual judiciary, with separate state and federal courts. India transformed this into an integrated judiciary. Under this structure, high courts operate under the control of the Supreme Court to ensure legal uniformity across our vast nation. The adaptation didn't stop at the systemic level. The framers also meticulously refined institutional roles to suit India's specific parliamentary context. The vice president, unlike the American model, where the vice president assumes the presidency for the remainder of the term if it becomes vacant, in India, the vice president only serves as an acting president until a new election is held. The upper house, while the British system features a hereditary or appointed House of Lords, the Indian Rajya Sabha is composed of elected representatives and wields fundamentally different constitutional powers. Presidential impeachment, the American process, including its specific majorities and grounds, is tailored to a purely presidential system. India's impeachment process is instead strictly tailored to the Indian parliamentary context. Why did the framers implement such precise adaptations? Because a simple copy-paste constitution would have fractured India. Foreign concepts had to be fundamentally engineered to survive three extreme domestic pressures: extreme diversity. India's multicultural, multi-religious, multilingual, and multi-ethnic reality required complex, tailored safeguards that simply did not exist in the homogeneous societies of the 1700s. Socio-economic disparity, the deep-rooted historical inequalities within our society necessitated unique mechanisms, such as the directive principles and robust affirmative action. National integration, the massive task of integrating 565 princely states required a quasi-federal structure, creating an indestructible union with destructible state boundaries to ensure long-term stability. Taking inspiration is a universal democratic tradition. Just as global cultures have drawn upon ancient Indian philosophy throughout history, the framers of the Indian Constitution drew upon the modern world's democratic triumphs. When we look at the final design, we see a masterful integration of executive power, the legislative branch, and judicial independence. Fundamental rights and directive principles. A robust federal structure supported by precise checks and balances. A clear amendment process and a functional electoral system. The verdict is clear: the Indian Constitution is not a mere collection of borrowed parts. It is a brilliant, pragmatic synthesis. It stands as a sovereign architectural masterpiece, carefully engineered, uniquely balanced, and completely localized to govern the world's most complex democracy. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment if you enjoyed this quick revision.